a one world government. Here we go, the Congressional Record of the House, 1954, page 5065. It's the Congressional Record of the House of Representatives, 1954, page 5065. Lethal Genocide Convention destroys individual rights. Extension of remarks of Honorable Usher Earl Burdick of North Dakota in the House of Representatives, Monday, April the 12th, 1954. Mr. Burdick. Mr. Speaker, the Genocide Convention passed by the United Nations is a fine-sounding document, but like other conventions adopted by that organization, it has an ulterior purpose. The dictionary defines genocide as the systematic destruction of a racial, political, or cultural group of people. Very few people in this world can be found who would not be in favor of putting a stop to this barbarous practice. But in framing this convention, the United Nations used this great appeal as an instrument to shield its real purpose. In defining genocide, the United Nations has gone beyond all past understanding of its meaning, and under the terms of this organization interprets it, if anyone, anywhere, even makes a statement reflecting upon any group or a member of any group which has the effect of injuring their feelings, then a crime has been committed, and the persons or persons making the statement are ipso facto guilty of the crime of genocide. Knowing full well that such a law could not be enforced in the United States, the United Nations has made elaborate preparations to implement it. Now, I'm going to read this paragraph over again for you folks. In defining genocide, the United Nations has gone beyond all past understanding of its meaning. And under the terms as this organization interprets it, if anyone, anywhere, even makes a statement reflecting upon any group or a member of any group which has the effect of injuring their feelings, then a crime has been committed, and the persons or persons making the statement are ipso facto guilty of the crime of genocide. Knowing full well that such a law could not be enforced in the United States, the United Nations has made elaborate preparations to implement it, and wait till you hear what those preparations are. First of all, the interpretation of this law and trials conducted under it are not entrusted to the courts of this or any other country, but come under the jurisdiction of a court of its own, which the United Nations has set up, an international court of justice which has civil and criminal jurisdiction. Let me read that again to you, just in case you missed it. It is proof positive that we are nothing but a vassal state of the United Nations, on top of all the other evidence we've already presented. I quote, first of all, the interpretation of this law and trials conducted under it are not entrusted to the courts of this or any other country, but come under the jurisdiction of a court of its own, which the United Nations has set up, an international court of justice which has civil and criminal jurisdiction. End quote. For several years now, lawyers have been working on the construction of this code. For several years now, lawyers have been working on the construction of this code. And under it, a person charged with the offense of genocide is tried wherever the United Nations may decide. The alleged offender can be taken out of this country if here is where he uttered the statements that hurt the feeling of some group or a member of a group and sent to any other country or the United Nations or wherever the United Nations deems proper for trial. I hope you've got a pad of paper and a pen with you, and I hope that you're here when I come back. Don't go away, folks. one paragraph to make sure that you didn't miss anything. For several years now, lawyers have been working on the construction of this code, and under it, a person charged with the offense of genocide is tried wherever the United Nations may decide. The alleged offender can be taken out of this country if here is where he uttered the statements that hurt the feeling of some group or a member of a group and sent to any country the United Nations deems proper for trial. When he is tried, and it may be for his life, he does not have the protection of the Constitution and the laws of the United States, but he is subject to the United Nations Code of Law and its Constitution. In order to get around the provision of our Constitution in regard to free speech, a free press, and free religion, and deny the citizens of this country that protection, the Genocide Convention and the Covenant of Human Rights broadly attempt to redefine these landmarks of liberty in a new definition of free speech, a free press, and free religion appear. It flatly denies the terms of our Constitution, which guarantee these fundamental rights to the people of this country, and sets up conditions that were not even thought of or discussed in our Constitutional Convention. The effect of this new definition of these three basic rights actually is to set aside the provisions of our own Constitution. And that's what I've been telling you all along. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Burdick, the Honorable Usher L. Burdick of North Dakota, making this speech in the House of Representatives on Monday, April 12, 1954. Since then, the United States has adopted in law the Genocide Convention and the Covenant of Human Rights. And it was all done within the last 4 years. Don't believe it? Go look, sheeple. There is no Constitution. There is no United States of America. It was a counterfeit, illegal, unlawful, unconstitutional, treasonous government sitting in Washington, D.C. today. Most of the politicians who have supposedly been serving the people of this great nation since 1933 have been traitors. I know you don't like to hear it, but it's the truth. Nobody ever likes to hear the truth, do they? I continue. Why is it necessary to abrogate our own Constitution in any particular if the only purpose of the convention is to put a stop to the crime of genocide? Does any provision of our Constitution favor genocide? No, sir, not a single provision. Why cannot our own courts be trusted to handle the crime of genocide? No, sir, they cannot be trusted. Hence, the United Nations builds a court of its own in defiance of the protection given by United States courts to every person charged with crime. And remember, folks, just saying something that might hurt the feelings of some person or some group is not genocide. But under this convention, that's exactly what you will be tried for. And it's happened many times. Every move made by the United Nations in framing its various conventions are of the same character as this Genocide Convention. The Covenant of Human Rights is another example. It sounds well in the face of it, but immediately it attacks the Constitution of the United States. The very Charter of the United Nations does the same thing. The United Nations is not an organization to preserve peace, but a sinister attempt to form a world government with a House and Senate, a judicial system, a tax system, and a police system. UNESCO is another attempt to destroy the United States. In that agency, patriotism is attacked. And instead of building love of country, the United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization directly attempts to eradicate it. Children are taught that reverence for the great men of our past tends to build a strong national spirit, and that conflicts with the United Nations' design to build a strong reverence for a world government. So they have stopped teaching these things in our schools. Nothing in the United Nations has yet proposed in any field seems willing to accept our Constitution and way of life as it is, and to proceed constitutionally. Every move made is a move to abrogate or redefine or amend our Constitution. The purpose behind this draft is to prepare the United States for entry into a world government. And under our Constitution, this cannot be done. The sovereignty of the United States is squarely and firmly based upon the Constitution. And unless it can be abrogated, our great republic cannot be taken into this spurious world government. Ours is the only government in the world that unqualifiedly exists for the people. The people built it. It was done by them. It was done for them. Most foreign countries have the opposite view. There, the people exist for the government. How in the world can true loyal Americans believe that a government like ours could mix with governments of